perfect. Every now and again, a poem saves your life. For me, it was Rumi. In those days, I had just finally said out loud to myself, I need a divorce. And I was on retreat to spend time alone contemplating this life-altering decision when I noticed a poem posted on the otherwise bare walls of my little guest house at the monastery. This being human, it said, is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a neediness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. These little words from Rumi would be the words that revolutionized my life, because I'd always thought my feelings were a problem, you know? I wasn't really supposed to have them, like they were a foot fungus, undesirable, and something you don't want other people knowing you have. Feelings? What feelings? I don't have feelings. I mean, I guess happiness was an okay one to have, but as it turns out, if I shut down all my other emotions, happiness went away too. We all know that about happiness, right? We've been to therapy, or we've at least watched the Pixar movie Inside Out. We know that you can't uninvite all the other feelings and expect happiness to run the party all by herself. As Rumi says, you've got to welcome and entertain them all, even when they are a crowd of sorrows. But after a few long decades of suppression, I honestly wasn't really sure how to welcome my emotions, how to feel them or notice them. I'm a writer, so I decided to start by writing letters to my feelings. I started with the emotion that was most submerged for me, anger. Women in particular aren't really supposed to feel anger, and I'm really good at supposed to. Therefore, my anger, was quite deeply buried, which I learned more about as I wrote this letter. Rage. You fill my rooms like a nosy house guest, taking up space with large hips and a sharp tongue. I think you a nuisance until I notice you are on a warpath, purging my house of all the silly doilies, niceties that keep me docile. You are making such a ruckus, murdering off my petticoats. What will the neighbors think? Frantic, I bake polite cookies to cover the stench of carnage. My pretty things now white-faced corpses, my darling hats rotting into skulls. Good God, what would the church ladies say if they stopped for tea just now? I run behind you with a mop, but it is no use. It's all a wreck, even the one box of bones I knew I had hidden in the attic corner you've placed on the mantel like an arrangement of trophies. I try to sweet-talk you into being calm. You tell me in clear terms, this is no time for calm. I am always calm, I shout. Why do you think I came? You whisper. Where did you even come from? I inquire. You cackle. You came from the backyard, where I buried you. I gasp. I blush. I did no such thing. But in the recesses of my memory, I can feel the weight of your large body as I hauled you in the secret night and dug a grave and washed my hands and served up scones in the morning. Good Lord. I stare down at my hands in shock as if seeing them for the first time. I forgive you, you say. I look into your blood-red eyes and realize you did not come here to make me angry. I am already angry. Rage, you came to unlock my energy. You did not come to make me violent against my enemies. You came to kill off in me all the proprieties that keep me shackled. You came to get rid of the reservations that prohibit the sanest part of me from using her voice. You came to stop me from assassinating the truth that lives inside me. You did not come to make me bitter and hateful. You came to take my hand and restore my home. I first wrote that letter 10 years ago, on the heels of my divorce, when I was coming to terms for the very first time that I had been abused. That was the first time Rumi saved my life, by allowing me access to the truth my anger so desperately wanted me to know. It wouldn't be the last time Rumi saved me. Over and over again in my life, I've learned to trust the wisdom of my feelings. I think in our society, we tend to value logic over feeling. Being emotional is a bad thing. Being rational is a smart thing. Feelings make you rash and stupid. Reason makes you measured and clever. Don't trust your feelings, we're told. And it's true that feelings can be confusing, that it might seem like our feelings encourage us to do things we know we shouldn't. You might feel like punching someone, or eating a 5th piece of chocolate cake, or saying something really mean to your partner just because you're fed up and life is hard. But the feelings themselves aren't the problem. Feelings aren't bad. Feelings are wise. The problem is when we don't know how to listen to the feelings and integrate their truth into our bodies. So instead of listening deep, we act out in shallow ways. We're trying to alleviate the feeling as fast as possible, rather than let the feeling tell us its secrets in its own slow and steady way. The problem isn't the feeling. The problem is trying to rush the feeling out the door. We're trying to expel it rather than welcome it. We don't want to feel it anymore, so we lash out. But the feelings didn't arrive at your doorstep to be ushered out as quickly as possible. They came bearing a message. They want you to spend time together, pour a cup of tea, ask some thoughtful questions. Now, to be honest, I wanted to write a talk for all of you about a variety of interesting emotions. Clearly, I've tackled anger. Time to move on to others, exploring the ins and outs of grief or joy or fear. But then this thing happened to me. After spending more than a decade coming to terms with my anger, I got angrier. I honestly thought the whole relating to it would make it sort of, chill, settle down, relax. And while I could point to a whole host of world events that have been responsible for spiking my rage, you want to know the one thing that really undid me? The thing that felt like it popped the top off a shook-up soda bottle full of rage? Toddlers. My own toddlers, to be clear, whom I love and adore, but I had 2 of them at the same time as a single mom. And I nearly lost my mind with rage. Forget that the ice caps are melting, or the world is at war, or that terrible people get elected to office. I can't get a pair of shoes on a tiny body in a timely fashion to save my life. I just need to get them out of the door and into the car without a meltdown so that I can get them to daycare so that I can have a little bit of time to work until it's time to pick them back up, and then try to make dinner while there are little people running around my feet, and then try to get them to sit still long enough to eat dinner, and then after all of that, I still have to somehow convince them yet again to let me freaking brush their teeth. As a mom of toddlers, I discovered new and deep levels of rage within me that I never knew existed. And if you're thinking I need to get a grip, gain a little perspective, you try it, okay? I have 2 kids you can borrow. Super cute, impossible with the shoes and the teeth brushing. Activities we have to do every day, more than once. And you know, I wanted nothing more than to be a gentle mom, okay? My generation is all about letting kids have their feelings, helping them learn how to regulate, and I love the sound of all of that. But I'm convinced that whoever wrote the Parenting Norms Handbook for Millennial Parents did not have 2 3-year-olds, and she certainly wasn't raising them alone. The point is, I reached this crossroads where I felt like I was losing my sanity. Not from the trauma of my life or the trauma of the world around me, both of which exist in abundance, but from trying to get little people's teeth brushed and their PJs on every single night, on repeat. One day I said to my kids, Mommy needs a break. And I went to my bedroom, I shut the door, and I threw a silent temper tantrum of my own. Like, kicked my legs, flailed my arms, punched my pillows. And in that moment, when I gave my body over to what she wanted, which was to throw her own darn temper tantrum, I suddenly realized something. That my little 3-year-old self was still wounded. She was jealous of my kids for the way they get to express themselves, when she was only ever made to shut up and stay calm or else. I realized she needed some love from me. 10 years ago, that poem from Rumi and my letter to Rage helped me see that my anger was trying to tell me that I was being violated, that abuse was happening and I had the right to walk away. 10 years later, my anger was trying to tell me that my little girl self had been violated too, and that there were some old wounds in there that wanted some tenderness and tending to. But I wouldn't have known that about my healing needs if I hadn't spent some time asking my anger what was going on and giving my body the time to hear her answer. Now the other piece of this story about finding myself so angry with my kids is that I finally figured out that a medication I was taking was causing mood swings. I didn't know that that was a side effect of the medicine, so it took me several months to put it together that the medicine was making life with my kids even harder for me. And I only figured it out because I decided to practice vulnerability with some other moms I knew by asking, so how angry is like too angry to be feeling at my kids? And I added, please be gentle because I really want to be a good mom. I got so many wonderfully vulnerable and kind responses back that I was both able to stop feeling alone and know that anger was normal, and finally piece it together for the first time that my medication was making it harder on me than it had to be. I shared that detail of the story because there's nothing super spiritual sounding about learning that your medication is making you extra cranky and needing to call your doctor. But I hold that part of the story as sacred too. Because in some way, my body was letting me know that I needed to switch up medications. It was signaling to me, hey, we need to make a change. And I don't say that as a way to dismiss medication. It was medication, not just Rumi by himself, that saved me. But in this instance, I needed to try something different, and I figured out what I needed to do by practicing vulnerability and talking to my friends, and that too is spiritual work. This is my spiritual path. Going on retreat, magically, mystically stumbling across the exact roomy poem I needed, writing my own poetry. But this is also my spiritual path. Poetry in which I cuss, throwing a temper tantrum in my bedroom, visiting the batting cages to smack some balls, fiddling with the right combination of medication, talking to friends, going to therapy, talking to my doctor, screaming into a pillow every now and then. Anger is one of those emotions that refuses to let you think spirituality is prim and proper and well-mannered, neat, tidy, or in any way linear. Anger is the sort of sacred that forces you to embrace your messy humanness and call it good. Anger is the sort of sacred that will not let you settle for false peace, that won't let you worship calm, as if calm is somehow a virtue when people are dying and oppression is rampant or you're being violated and abused. Anger is a sacred interruption that lets you know there's a thing you really gotta pay attention to. Anger is a sacred energy that ignites your fire and your passion. Anger is like a fist that won't stop pounding on the door when you're trying too hard to isolate yourself from the world. Anger demands that you come out. And for me, at least, anger is the thing that busts up my depression and propels me forward. Anger is a bullhorn shouting the truth in your ear when you're in denial. Anger is the sacred signal that there's a deep hurt inside of you that wants your acknowledgement, or a grief that needs your tending. Anger is the prompt for you to take a new and different action. Anger is your friend. So meet her at the door laughing and invite her in. She just might be here.